Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhakta
Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Hare Krishna Premasindhu Gauranga Prabhu for actually joining us today. Devotees, today we have the pleasure and honor of having His Grace Premasindhu Gauranga Prabhu, and we'll be just continuing with our Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, which talks about the activities of Maharaja Priyavrata, and today we'll be covering verse number 23. Prabhu, over to you.
Thank you. So, thank you very much for allowing me to serve Srimad Bhagavatam, and I'm very happy to be with all the devotees who will be joining this class. So, we are studying 5th canto here, activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. So, this is the first chapter and 23rd verse. So, we'll begin by chanting prayers first. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Sarvapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanshya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So this is the 23rd verse of the first chapter, 5th canto. So this verse is not in a meter, it's a text. Many of the verses in 5th canto are text, it's not prose. So we'll read this verse. Itiha vasa sa jagati pate Ishwareච්ඡaya dhiniveshita karmadhikaro akhila jagat bandhava dhamsana paranubhavasya bhagavatadi purushsyangri yugalan anvarata dhanubhavena parirandhita kashaya shayo vadhatopi manavardhano mahatam mahitaram anushashasa. So iti is thus vav. Indeed, saha, he, Jagatipati, the emperor of the whole universe, Ishwarichaya, by the order of the Supreme Personality of God, Adhiniveshita, is completely engaged. Karma Adhikaraha, in material affairs. Akhila Jagat of the entire universe. Bandha, bondage. Dhamsana, destroying. Para, transcendental. Anubhavasya, whose influence. Bhagavata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Adi Purushasya, the original person. Angri, the lotus feet. Yugala 2, Anavarata, constant. Dhyana Anubhavena, by meditation. Parirandita, destroyed. Shaya, all dirty things. Ashaya, in this heart. Avadataha, completely pure. Api, although. Manavardhanaha, just to give honor. Bhatam, to superiors. Nihitalam, the material world. Anushashasa, ruled. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Following the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Maharaj Priyavrat fully engaged in the worldly affairs. Yet he always thought of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are the cause of liberation from all material attachment. Although Priyavrat Maharaj was completely freed from all material contamination, he ruled the material world just to honor the orders of his superiors. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Janamati Vaya. Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhoti Naishtiti Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya. So here the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat are described, and it starts with the fourth canto, and we have seen in the fourth canto the genealogy is described. The daughters of Brahma, they are described in the beginning. So in the beginning of the fourth canto, there is the description of Sati Dakshayagya. And then the genealogy continues. The sons of Swayambhuvaman, Uttanapad, Priyavrat. So before describing Uttanapad and Priyavrat, Dhruva Maharaj is described by Maitreya. This is a conversation between Maitreya and Vidura, because Maitreya is very much eager to describe the glories of Dhruva Maharaj. So before describing his father Uttanapad and his uncle Priyavrat, who are sons of Swayambhuva Muni, is describing about Dhruva Maharaj. And after that, the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat are described. So there are so many lessons to be learned from the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat. And one of the lessons which we can learn is explained in this particular verse. So let us read the purport first, then we'll discuss about that. So the verse is saying that following the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Maharaj Priyavrat fully engaged in worldly affairs. So we all know that Maharaj Priyavrat was not interested in worldly affairs. And so he took renunciation and he was performing his sadhana, tapasya, austerities. And sometimes when a qualified person is not available to rule over the worldly affairs, then Lord Brahma, he must find out the right person. In this case, Lord Brahma thought that the most qualified person to rule over the world right now, to manage the worldly affairs, is Priyavrat. In the fourth canto, it is explained that Uttanapada and Priyavrat, they are empowered by the Supreme Lord to manage worldly affairs. So they are like Shaktavesh avatars. It is explained in the beginning of the Dhruva Maharaj section, 8th chapter, I think, 4th canto, 8th chapter. It is explained that Priyavrat and Uttanapada were specifically empowered by the Supreme Lord to rule over the world or to govern worldly affairs. And so Uttanapada, he has already governed the world for some time. And now the next person who is the most qualified is his brother. So although he's not interested in doing these things, but because he is requested by many Mahajans, headed by Brahma, so he agrees to do something which he does not like for a higher principle. So in this world, we always do what we like to do, and we have a very calculative mindset, what I am going to get from something. And in case of great personalities, great devotees of the Lord, they are not very calculative about what they like to do. Definitely, they also have their likes and dislikes. Like we see that when Srila Prabhupada is going to the West in the Jalduta, Prabhupada is writing in the poem that when will the time come that I'll go back to Krishna and I'll again associate with him, play with him. So he's expressing his desire like that. So basically, he does not like to be here in the material world. But perhaps Krishna has sent him for some purpose. Prabhupada used to say that Krishna has sent me here to write these books. Similarly, great personalities like Priyarat Maharaj, they will be ready to do what Krishna likes. So even if it is not very palatable to them, they are eager to do what Krishna likes, because ultimately, when we do what Krishna likes, then that results in the ultimate pleasure. So here in this verse, it is told that Priyavrat Maharaj, although completely disinterested in worldly affairs, so he is going to engage in these worldly affairs. And although Priyavrat Maharaj is completely freed from material contamination, so although he is ruling over the worldly affairs, he is freed from material contamination. So that's why he is even more qualified to rule over worldly affairs. Most of the people in this world are naturally inclined to worldly affairs. So as soon as you give them an opportunity, can you take up this post, position, or this responsibility? So they'll jump on that because that is their natural inclination. They want it very badly. In this case, Devrat Maharaj is not at all interested, but he is doing it out of duty. So that makes him even more qualified to govern the worldly affairs in a just manner, without being biased, with a renounced devotional mindset. Because he is doing it on the order of his superiors, headed by Lord Krishna himself and Lord Brahma and his other followers. So Prabhupada is writing in the purport. The words Man Vardhano Mahatam, just to show honor to superiors, are very significant. Although Maharaj Priyavrat was already a liberated person and had no attraction for material things, he engaged himself fully in governmental affairs just to show respect to Lord Brahma. Then Prabhupada gives here example from Mahabharata. He's taking the example of how Arjuna had no desire for worldly affairs. In the beginning of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he tells Krishna that I should better give up the alms and I can go to the forest and I can live by begging alms. And I'm not so much interested in killing my relatives and ruling over and enjoying like that. But of course, Krishna, he wanted to destroy irreligion. And so he wanted to use Arjuna as an instrument. So in this case, Krishna tells Arjuna that I need you to become an instrument. So you should fight. In case of Parikshit Maharaj, he was inspired by the Lord to give up everything and retire. So whatever Krishna wants to show in this world through his devotees, the devotees act like that. You know, in some previous classes we have discussed that how one personality can change his role, his external role, to fit in the Lord's pastimes. So in this case, we see Priyavrat is, Prabhupada is writing, is a liberated person and no attraction to material things, he is writing here. And then later on he gets married. He has, I think he has two wives. Yeah, two wives. And so he enters household life and he is doing so many um, managerial things in the universe. So we see that the same personality, uh, associate of Lord Ram, Hanuman, he is a celibate. Now next time when he comes as a Pandava, Bhima, he is a householder. So, and then he does not think that, you see, in the previous incarnation I was Naishtik Brahmachari. So how I can become householder? And then again in Kali Yuga, the same person comes as Acharya Madhva, again sannyasi. So whatever is to be done for the Lord's pastimes, the devotee is interested in doing that. And so here Prabhupada is giving the example of Krishna and Arjuna from Bhagavad Gita, and we'll discuss more on that later. So Prabhupada writes here that Arjuna had no desire to participate in the political affairs or fighting at Kurukshetra, but when ordered to do so by Supreme Lord Krishna, he executed those duties very nicely. Yogina api sarvesham madgatenata madgatenantaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayukta uttamama. So Prabhupada is writing the last verse of 6th chapter. Out of all the yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga, and is highest of all. So there are so many types of yogis, and they are doing, they are undergoing different yogic processes in order to attain perfection. Now, perfection is also of different categories. Some wants to become one with Brahman, Sayujya. They have an impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord. They have no knowledge of the Vaikuntha planets. And then there are the personalists who want to go to the Vaikuntha planets. So Krishna here is telling that someone who is engaged in his bhajan, Shraddhavan bhajate yoma. So bhajan means worship. So bhajan is an integral part of bhakti yoga. So here, out of all the yogis, if that yogi in his sadhana has included the element of bhajan with complete faith, Shraddhavan bhajate yoma. So he is considered as the best of all. So worshipping Krishna. What is worship of Krishna? So worship of Krishna is definitely what there are different sampradayas who tell about Krishna worship. And the acharyas, they give a system of sadhana. So that system of sadhana is there. And also another very important thing in Bhakti Yoga is to do the activity which pleases the Supreme Lord. So Bhakti Yoga is the process. It's a very special process. Whatever you perform here is the same thing which you will perform after liberation in Vaikuntha planets. So here you are worshipping the deity, there you will worship the Supreme Lord directly. Here you are doing activities which are pleasing to Krishna, or whatever form of Krishna in Bhakti the sadhaka is worshipping. The same activity or a similar activity, a similar mood he will have in the Vaikuntha world. So the sadhan and sadhya are similar in Bhakti Yoga. So a Bhakti yogi, he does not think that if a superior Vaishnava is telling me to do certain activity, of course that Vaishnava should be qualified. Then I can even put a full stop, not a full stop. I can keep on hold my intense sadhana or austerities, which I am performing for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And I can engage in some practical service to the Supreme Lord, just like Arjuna is doing. So in our case, those who are born in Kali Yuga, all of us, Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas also, they have given a process in which practical service is very much involved. Because all of us, we are not naturally inclined to think about Krishna all the time, either through chanting, reading, or other 9 processes of devotional service. So we are not naturally inclined for remembering Krishna, chanting his name, reading about him, etc. And so the process which is given to us by the acharyas is such that by engaging us in our natural proclivities, we are supposed to inculcate these elements of the ninefold devotional service in our life. So whether one is a householder or a renunciate or whether whatever quality he has attained by the dint of the activities he has done in previous lives. Everybody has some qualification, some special quality, whatever it is. It can be used in the process of devotional service. So that is the process which is given to us to Kali-yuga souls. In case of Priyavrat Maharaj, so he is not like us. He is directly son of Brahma, not son. He is the grandson of Brahma. And so his mind is not like us. His intellect is not like us. His mind is completely peaceful. No external vibrations. Intellect is completely fixed up on the lotus feet of the Lord. And so even if he sits in one place, he can immediately fix his mind on the Supreme Lord. If a person can do this, that when he sits down, without any deviation, he can always remember the Supreme Lord. For such a person, there is no need of doing any other external activity. But even a person who has such a wonderful qualification that he can sit down in one place and always remember Krishna. When he is told by his superior, requested by his superiors that he needs to do some service, he does not disobey them. So he agrees. And of course, we see later that it's not that he becomes bound by those activities. Later on, he again renounces and goes back to his sadhana. So, so this is the special quality of Priyavrat Maharaj, which we see here. So Prabhupada writes that Maharaj Priyavrat was therefore a liberated person and was among the highest of yogis. Yet, superficially, he became the emperor of the universe in accordance with the order of Lord Brahma. Narayana para sarve na kutaschana vibhyati swarga pavarga narkeshva api tulyartha darshinaha. A devotee who is actually advanced is not afraid of anything, provided he has the opportunity to execute the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the proper explanation of why Priyavrat engaged in worldly affairs, although he was a liberated person. Also, only because of this principle does a Mahabhagavat, who has nothing to do with the material world, come down to the second platform of devotional service to preach the glories of the Lord all over the world. So here, Prabhupada is speaking about himself. So we see that great acharyas are there and they are on this platform that they don't have to do anything actually because they are constantly thinking of Krishna. It's not important for them to do any other activity. They are beyond Varnashram. So they don't have any duty in Varnashram. But because they have to set an example in this world and preach, so they come to the platform of Madhyama. And then they discriminate, and this is required for preaching. So they preach, discriminate, and manage. So Prabhupada speaks about himself. So we see here that how we work in this world, that is explained, how we should work in this world is explained here in this verse. And it is exemplified by Priyavrat Maharaj. So Krishna tells in the Karma Yoga section chapters 2, 3, 4, 5. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफल हेतुर्भुर् मते संगोस्त्व अकर्मणि. So he says that karmanya eva adhikaraste. So you have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Also, ma karma phala hetu mate sangostva karma. Means one should not consider oneself the cause of the results of one's activities. There are many causes of an action. Krishna explains in Bhagavata 5 causes of action. So what we want to do is one of the causes, but everything is not dependent on that. There are other causes also. So, ma karma phala hetu. You are not the cause of action, neither you are the cause of the result of your activities. And mate sangostva akarmani. So even if you are not the cause of your action or not the only cause of your action, definitely we are the cause of the actions and results which we reap, but not the only cause. So one might think, if I'm not the only cause, then why should I bother? I should not do any duty. So Krishna says, no, it's not like. Mate sangostva akarmani. Never be attached to not doing your duty. So don't be detached from your duty. You should still do your duty. So that's the lesson which is given to, or that's the example which Arjuna is also showing. He is a Kshatriya and he is performing the duty as a Kshatriya. So technically, it's called as Karma Yoga. So now the devotees, they will explain Karma Yoga also in context of Bhakti Yoga, because karma or any activity is ultimately done for the pleasure of the Lord. And so that karma, it becomes bhakti. So people generally say that why in ISKCON's Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga is called as Bhakti Yoga. So actually Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, they are different. But for devotees, they will explain everything in context of Bhakti. If you read Shankara Bhashya, they will explain everything in context of Jnana. Some people explain Bhagavad Gita in context of Karma Kanda also. So what is wrong if someone explains Bhagavad Gita in context of Bhakti? So devotees will do that. So because every karma is supposed to be done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, and that we actually see in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, Arjuna is doing everything for Krishna. So if you're doing an activity for Krishna, it's not that Krishna told that Arjuna, so you fight, you become the king, and then you enjoy and forget about me. So he's not telling Arjuna that you just become a successful person, work hard, become a successful person. No, that is not karma. So in general, every living being is working for some result. And if a person is working day and night in a factory, why he is doing so? He is doing so for some result. The result is to earn some money, to maintain himself. So behind every activity, there is a motivation. So everyone practically is motivated to work based on the result which he will derive from that. Everybody is motivated to work based on the result which he or she might derive from that. But what we understand here is that Krishna is telling Arjuna something which is contradictory. It looks contradictory in the first glance, that don't be attached to the fruit. You are not the cause, not the only cause of action. And also don't be attached to not doing your work. So as per Vedic knowledge, the mentality to enjoy the fruits of our actions is the one which causes suffering in this world. So when the results are favorable, then we feel happy. When the results are unfavorable, we feel unhappy, morose. So how to transcend this feeling of happiness and unhappiness? That is what Krishna is telling here in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And the same principle we see exemplified by Priyavrat Maharaj. So Krishna is pointing how to transcend good work and bad work, or pious, impious work, or the work which we like to do and the work which we hate to do in service of Krishna. Even in the service, there are some aspects which we like to do, like some people like to give a class, they don't like management. Some other people, they like management, they don't like to read so much. So giving a class is big austerity. So there are things which we like, we don't like. Some things we find enjoyable, some things we don't find enjoyable. So we are always considering what is going to make me happy. So it is practically impossible in this world to perform activities which only give us happiness. It is not possible in this world. So why our mind is disturbed in this world? Why we are confused? Because we only want to do activities which want to make us, or which will make us happy, or the mind tells us that it will make us happy. But in this world, it is practically impossible to only perform activities which will give you happiness. So the next question is, what is the way out of this? So Krishna is telling that we as living entities are eternal loving servants of God. And hence, it is best for us that we do all the work for God's interest, Krishna's interest. That is the way of transcending the tribulations which come in the mind, because we find certain activities pleasing and other activities displeasing. So it is better to work for God and his servants and become an instrument. So in that way, we will remain happy and peaceful. In the beginning, it is a little bit difficult. It's an austerity. Like for Arjuna also, it was difficult in the beginning. But once you start doing, then the mind becomes peaceful and one becomes happy. So if we perform some work, let's say we are performing some work in our office, in our company, and we are doing that work on our own accord, then we will be responsible for the success or failure. But if we are doing it on behalf of our manager or superior, then the success or failure is the responsibility of the manager. Similarly, if we work as instruments of Krishna, then the Lord promises us that we'll become free from all reactions and we'll become happy and peaceful. So, doing bhajan or intense meditation, chanting or any other form of worship of Supreme Lord is very wonderful and very glorious. Such people are extremely rare. But if someone does some practical activity along with one sadhana under the guidance of a pure devotee, then it's a very safe path because he's always under the protection and guidance of that personality. For example, in this case, let's say that Priyavrat Maharaj, now he takes up some worldly duties and eventually, let's say he gets attached to family life. It is the responsibility of Lord Brahma to remind him that the time has come now to retire and again become free from all these things. And the Supreme Lord himself and his representatives like Narad Muni, it is their duty to remind him. So he is in a very safe hands now. So Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita that we should perform our activities for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord without considering our personal success or failure. If we do like that, it is called as yoga. Yogastha Guru Karmani Sangam Tattva Dhananjaya Siddhi Asiddhayo Samo Bhutva Samattam Yoga Uchyate. The next verse of Karmanyeva Adhikaraste. So what Krishna tells, perform your duty in an equipoised manner and abandon all attachments, Sangam Tattva, to success and failure. And such equanimity is called as yoga. Siddhi asiddhayo samo bhutva. Success and failure. Samatvam yoga uchyate. So also it is mentioned in the 18th chapter that there are 5 causes of action, 5 causes of karma. Adhisthana, karta, karana, daiva. So like that. Cheshta. So there are these 5 and also the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is Daiva. So these are the 5 factors of action. So only when the final sanction of the Supreme Lord is there, then one can perform some action. Otherwise, one cannot perform any action. So that's why sometimes even though we may not plan perfectly, still we might get exceptional results when we are performing devotional service. So again, many people, they might ask that if everything depends on God, then why should I work? Let God decide and give me the results. So that's why Krishna tells, Ma karma phala hetur gur mate sangostva karma. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. So another important consideration I wanted to speak in this section, that is discussed in the 3rd canto, in the teachings of Kapila Muni. So, if someone becomes engaged in worldly affairs, definitely he will develop some attachment. If one is married to a wife, definitely he will have some attachment to wife. Then when he has children, he will have some attachment to children. So, without that, he cannot remain in that situation if there is no attachment. So now, if someone is a devotee of the Lord and he is in such a position, and if one is a householder, then he also needs many other things to maintain himself. So where he will go, whether he will go to demigods or he will go to Krishna. So definitely he goes to Krishna only. In Bhagavatam we hear akama sarva kamo va moksha kamo udani tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusha param. So akama sarva kamo va moksha kamo. So whether one has some material desire one does not have a material desire, or one has a desire for liberation. In all the three cases, one should approach the Supreme Lord. Now the question comes, if someone has material desire, why should he approach the Supreme Lord? It is not pure devotional service to approach the Supreme Lord for some material desire. You should approach the demigods. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, those whose intelligence is materially motivated, they worship the demigods. And the demigods, they supply their material desires. So the answer here is that because he is already devotee, either he is, so now there are two types of devotees. Either he is a pure devotee like Priyavrat Maharaj, or he is a practicing devotee like all of us. So in either of the case, even if a pure devotee engages in material activities, definitely he will not be attached to them because he has already become pure. In case of someone who has not become pure, who is practicing like all of us, then Kapila Muni tells in third canto, I can't remember which exact chapter, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in the commentary there. The difference between getting a material desire fulfilled or a material activity fulfilled by approaching the Supreme Lord and getting it fulfilled through Karma Kanda by approaching the demigods. There is a big difference there. What is the difference? The devotee will also get that thing which he desires. If Krishna desires, he will get that thing fulfilled, that thing, an object or activity or whatever. But when he gets it through Krishna, then after enjoying that, Krishna will make sure that he loses the attraction to enjoy that thing again. So when he enjoys it, that his desire of enjoying it again, it will vanish. He will never again desire for that. Example is Dhruva Maharaj. So Dhruva Maharaj had a material desire to get a kingdom bigger than Brahma. So he gets it. At the same time, Krishna manages it in such a way that he will never again desire for that. So if one is a devotee and he engages in some so-called material affairs, then Krishna makes sure, of course, the devotee should be sincere also, that the devotee will eventually lose the taste for that material activity or that material enjoyment. He will not desire it again if he has gotten it from Krishna. If he gets it through the agency of demigods, then the material desire will remain as it is. So that aspect of purification will not come. So here we see that in case of Priyavrat Maharaj, it seems someone who is not a devotee and is reading Bhagavatam, someone who might be a Karmakandi or a Jnani, if he reads Bhagavatam, he'll get the message that performing duty is higher than bhakti, because Priyavrat is giving up bhakti for duty. But the proper way of understanding is that even when he is performing his duty, he does not become attached to it. That is the mercy of the Supreme Lord and devotees, headed by Brahma. And eventually we'll see that after performing all these activities, he again becomes renounced, because Krishna will purify him. He will take away that desire of doing that activity ever again. In Priyavrat's case, it's different because he already does not have that desire. But in general, I'm speaking, someone who is not a pure devotee like Priyavrat Maharaj, so Krishna will take away that desire. In case of Priyavrat, already the desire is not there. He's just doing it out of emergency. it is an emergency that someone should manage. So he's doing it out of emergency. So that is another important aspect we see here. So what is the practical thing which we can take out of this episode, this verse? So all of us, we are looking for joy and happiness. What is the reason why you are working? What is the reason why you are studying? What is the reason why you are acquiring money? What is the reason you want security in your life? Why do you want a better future for yourself, for your family? Why you want to make improvements in your occupation? So we all want some joy and happiness. And there's nothing wrong in getting joy and happiness. But Krishna consciousness is the key to real happiness. So, because that is the happiness which is eternal. Other types of happiness, they will keep changing. Because the mind and senses, they keep changing. So, what is pleasing to the mind and senses also keeps changing. So, when you are a child, you like some toys. And if someone gave you a lot of money, when you are a child, you'll buy a lot of toys. But now, if someone gives you a lot of money, you'll not buy toys. It does not give you happiness. So it is the spiritually, by spiritualizing our life, that we change our conception of joy. The conception of joy should be permanent. Then we can move ahead to get joy which will always remain with us. If we do not spiritualize our conception of joy and happiness, then we'll always remain frustrated, because the idea of joy and happiness keeps changing. Today, what is happiness for you? Perhaps after a few years, it will be something else. If you change your body, go to another body, it will be something else. So unless one understands what is the real uh, eternal joy, what is the real conception of joy, then will not become happy. So, so now what to do? So once we spiritualize our life, then the troubles that we have, it begin to appear as if they are temporary. So for example, even in service, for example, let's say Srila Prabhupada, he did so many services, so many acharyas. Priyavrat Maharaj, he did so many services. There must have been so many troubles involved also. Arjuna also is fighting with his relatives. It's a troublesome thing. It's not that he's enjoying killing all these people. But all these troubles, they seem like temporary troubles. They seem like an play of Krishna's energy. And we'll see that all these difficulties or the things which do not give us pleasure, but we are still supposed to do them, they are actually not part of our real identity. So we are going on around and we take seriously things which affect our body or our mental happiness. So to the degree in which we are in illusion, to that degree, these things affect us, happiness and unhappiness of this world. So Krishna consciousness, it gives us the courage to actually face difficult situations. So, and then whatever joy and sorrow we experience, it comes and goes like winter and summer. So Priyavrat Maharaj also is very happy, he's thinking of Krishna. And now he has to divert his attention. Of course, he'll keep thinking of Krishna because he's already a purity. For him, it's not a problem. But in our case, there are some things which we like to do, something we don't like to do while serving Krishna. So whatever joy or sorrow we experience, it comes and goes like winter and summer. Krishna also tells that in Bhagavad Gita. So it is all temporary. And what we can expect, that it will go away soon. And we will very soon experience eternal joy. So, but without spiritual understanding or without having a proper understanding of what is eternal joy, then we will take temporary ups and downs and the pursuit of material happiness very seriously. So then we'll always be disturbed. This activity is not pleasing for me, so I'm disturbed now. And when this issue will be resolved, then I will be happy. When this issue will be resolved, then I will chant very nicely. When this issue is resolved, then I will read Bhagavata. Till this issue is resolved, I am disturbed. So we'll remain like that. So if you want more than this state in which we are, we want to go deeper, then we need to understand our real identity and the real concept of happiness, which is working for Krishna under the guidance of advanced devotees. So this is the lesson which we learn here in this verse on life of Priyavrat Maharaj. Okay. So we stop here. Any questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful class. Actually, many points, but I will just cover a few of them to just summarize here. In terms of how you talked about that, how actually Maharaj Priyavrat, how he did everything, what he was willing to do anything for the pleasure of the superior and the guidance and for the Mahajanas and Krishna. And he was completely freed from any material contamination and was most qualified for the role to actually rule the world. So this is very, and he was the highest of yogis. We talked about the people normally crave after positions and power. And here he was not at all interested, so that makes him even more eligible and qualified. You talked about different kinds of yogis and their realization, and highlight that devotee only wants to please Krishna, and the sadhana and sadhya are taken as very similar. And you talked about in the Kali Yuga, we are not naturally inclined to serve Krishna, and so acharyas like Prabhupada, he got us engaged through actually dovetailing all our actions towards serving Krishna. So, and you also talked about devotee is not afraid of anything, and you explained it even further later on. And you talked about for that the devotee should be very clear. He's not the one who is the actual doer in terms of it is only his action which is actually. I mean, he's not responsible for the action or the results. He's not the doer. There are other 5 factors that actually come into picture over here, and not to be attached to that. So, and this works towards Krishna's pleasure. You talked about motivation is based on results, and enjoying results actually causes a real suffering, and this needs to be transcended. And we should be actually approaching the Supreme Lord for all kinds of desires, where you make distinction between going to demigods and of going to Krishna, because Krishna will purify and make sure we don't, though our desires will be satisfied, we would not develop a taste for it subsequently. And of course, the takeaway I would just put across when you said that we should have, we should move from joint happiness, which is mixed with our happiness and Krishna's, and to complete happiness in Krishna consciousness, which is done by, spiritualizing our conception of joy and happiness and make it more eternal. And you said that we should understand the real identity and making sure we work for Krishna under the guidance of superiors. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. I've just opened the lines for the devotees to share their reflections or ask questions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, you said Premasindhu was Bhima. Did I listen properly?
No, that was
Who was it?
different. That is Hanuman, Bhima, and Madhvacha. That is different.
Okay.
Yeah. I gave you the example that how a devotee, he can change his position
Okay.
to adjust in Krishna's pastime. Like
Okay.
Hanuman and Madhvacharya, they are brahmacharis, sannyasis.
Mm.
And Bhima is a householder, the same person. But they can change their external activities drastically in order to fulfill the Lord's pastimes. That's why I was relating it with Priyavrat, who was a renunciate and who will eventually become a householder.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's what I missed a little bit, so I wanted to ask you. Thank you. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, then pranams to you. This is Prasanatma Balaram Das. Just have a question with respect to what you spoke, Prabhu. It was a wonderful class, so there are so many takeaways for me. But Prabhuji, you are speaking about the big change or the big decision somehow gets done. I mean, we generally, as practicing devotees also, so we know that there are these big decisions which we take, and then we might even choose Krishna over other material things. But in the process of execution of that, like in the details, in the day-to-day, you also mentioned that they all underwent, like Premasindhu underwent so much of day-to-day difficulties, likewise with Srila Prabhupada and all. So now my question is around that, like, in the process of those, like the details, you know, like they say, no, the devil is in the detail. So there might be reactions which may not be favorable, which may not be totally Krishna conscious. So then how do we reconcile or comprehend that? Will all that get not considered because we have taken the big decision? Or we will have to, of course, we'll have to manage those small things also. Like, for example, not getting angry, not shouting. I mean, some of these things which might come up while in the process of executing the day-to-day. So how do we, where do we balance that out? That's my question.
Yes. So we have started the process of performing sadhana bhakti right now. And the goal is to reach perfection, and where we will have a perfect behavior internally, externally, it will be the same. So right now we are practicing, and at times we might slip and fall. As long as we can again stand up and start walking on the right path, then Krishna does not mind it. You know, so if someone is performing or someone is committing some small mistake, then it's not a very big thing. So you chant one name of Krishna, it can wipe out sinful reactions of many lifetimes. So for Krishna, some small mistake here and there is not so important. Krishna sees that you are sincere and you are trying to walk on the correct path. So if you slip and fall, then we understand that, okay, I made this mistake. And eventually we rectify it and we use it as a stepping stone for our success. So as long as we can have that positive attitude, then that is fine. So one does not, one should not get overly disturbed by these things. That, oh, I became angry. Definitely you should not become angry unnecessarily. But because it's a conditioning which is coming from many lifetimes and we are practicing devotional service just for a few years now. So sometimes those conditionings will definitely come out. But we should know that how to rectify it and eventually get rid of those things. So as long as we can have this positive attitude, then it's not a problem. We should not be overly disturbed by these things also. Some devotees, they become overly disturbed. Oh, I did this, and then they'll keep thinking about it for many days. That is not necessary. So you do whatever is required for rectifying the situation. For example, you became very angry and you shouted on some devotees. You go and ask forgiveness. You tell that, okay, in future I'll not do like this. That's it, and you get over it, and again start engaging in positive Krishna conscious activity and forget about those things. So that kind of positive attitude, dynamic attitude is required in order to move ahead.
Mhm. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Makes sense. Thank you so much for that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Sankarshan Priyadas here, Prabhu. Thank you very much for very nice class, Prabhuji. Every time we relish your class, really. I have one doubt, Prabhuji. So in this case of Priyavrata, and also you quoted the example of Srila Prabhupada, they are all liberated personalities, and they have taken up this, Grihastha Ashrama, or they have taken up a certain role because they want to set the example to the society, and they never get attached to what they were doing, right, Prabhuji? Whereas in case of conditioned, personalities like me, other practicing sadhakas, we actually take up the responsibilities, our occupational duty, because of our conditioned state. We know theoretically that we should not get attached to our occupational duty, but because of our conditional state, we get attached, and then that causes some disturbance to our sadhana or our spiritual progress. So how to manage this situation, Prabhuji? We have to do that, our occupational duty, but still we have to be not overly attached.
So all the confusions and problems in the mind or the behavior are only because of one reason, which is avidya. Avidya means forgetfulness of one's identity. So avidya comes from lack of knowledge. So time and again, we have to keep hearing, and we should read what our acharyas have given us, the wealth of knowledge. So eventually, through the knowledge, avidya will go away. We will be reinstated in our original position, and we'll understand that whatever I am doing is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord and the superiors. We already know it theoretically. Then the realization will also come. And so then the attachment will go away. Or if someone becomes very much attached and he is not trying to get out of that avidya also, then Krishna will give him some kick, then he will understand. So in this world, one can understand only by two processes. One process is that one tries to get out of avidya by cultivating knowledge. So one has to read and hear. And reading and hearing has two effects. One is one gets knowledge, avidya is gone. Another thing is one gets attached to Krishna. So one is attached to Krishna, then automatically all the good qualities they start developing in a person. So as a result, the attachment will also go away. Second way of understanding is that Krishna will give you some kick, then you will understand. So both ways are there. So it's better that we choose the first one, because the second one may or may not happen. If Krishna feels that, okay, let him enjoy some more because he's not so sincere, then perhaps let him go to heavenly planets. So then we don't want that. We already read that whether you go to heavenly planets or you go to the planet of Lord Brahma, still the same problem is there. So why to get attached? We saw in the fourth canto that in the family of Brahma, Brahma's son is Swayambhuva Manu, and his sons are Uttanapada and Priyavrata. Uttanapada has two wives, Suniti, Suruchi. So now Suniti, Suruchi is the stepmother of Dhruva. So she is very much envious of Dhruva. She does not want him to sit in the lap of Dhruva, in the lap of Uttanapad. And so she is speaking harsh words to Dhruva. She is saying that, see, you have to give up your body and take birth from my womb. Then you can sit on the throne, otherwise you cannot sit. So Prabhupada writes there in the purport that this is in the 8th chapter of 4th canto. Even in very highly elevated societies, like the society of Swayambhuva Manu himself, which is basically the family of Lord Brahma himself, we find these kind of things. So these are the things we see here in this earth planet, that one person is envious of another person, speaking harshly. But even if you go to family of Lord Brahma, you find the same thing, that same kind of behavior, and people lamenting in the same way. Now, Dhruva Maharaja's mother, she's lamenting just like any lady on the earth planet, that I'm so unfortunate, my husband does not love me, and this and that, etc., etc. This is happening in family of Brahma. So what is the point in attachment? Ultimately, the only attachment should be to Krishna, and everything else is temporary. So even if you become Brahma, or to speak of, some little things which you do here, some little temple post position, so whatever you become, it's all temporary. Even Brahma is temporary. So that we should always meditate, that even in Brahma society, the same problem is there. People speaking harshly to each other, and people crying and getting disappointed. And so what is the point? Only Krishna's shelter is something which will give us joy. Other things are temporary, we do it as a duty. And so when we understand this, then we don't get attached. So this getting out of avidya is the only solution for these dualities of the mind, attachment or happiness, unhappiness, whatever. So that's why reading Shastras is very, very important. So it will keep us sane. We live in a world which is insane. And with modern technology, media, all the news which is bombarded on us, and we are also addicted to the gadgets. As soon as we open them, all the insanity enters the mind. So as soon as you open something, immediately there is war. There is suffering. There is quarrel. So mind becomes insane. It is very difficult to safeguard us from these things. So that's why we should, to protect us from this insanity in the world and to keep our mind peaceful, one has to take shelter of the Shastra. Then we'll be protected from these things. Otherwise, the insanity of the world will make all these material qualities creep into us also, even if we are devotees. That is the solution.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your wonderful association and your sharing, as well as addressing all these particular questions. And thank you, devotees, for all your questions. Very nice questions. So if we have no further questions, I think we are already 8:30 now. So I think we will end the class. I mean, we just end the session now. So before we just end, we will take the Vaishnava Pranam. Panchakalpatarubhascha kripasindhubhya chapatitanam pavanejyo Vaishnava. Anantakoti Vaishnava Jai Ventrajima Pastika Jai Jai Gauranga. Thank you, Prabhu, for your association. Thank you, devotees. We'll have a class tomorrow live from temple.